If you are sitting there always hitting your token usage limit, you just suck at using AI. Up until now, we valued execution. So people who can do things, valuable. The only thing that's going to be valuable going forward is prioritization. Can you sit down with Claude? Can you properly ask for what you want? Can you take the expertise in your brain, build the system, test it to make sure it works, and then just rinse and repeat it?
Do you think this whole thing is a bit of a bubble?
The finance major in me says.
Welcome back to Founders Garage. Today I'm with a friend, Cooper Simpson, AI expert, someone with experience with managing a portfolio of technology companies from a venture studio lens. And we're going to have an all-around great discussion around AI and building technology companies today because the landscape has shifted. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going to be lots of fun.
Let's start with a quick one that, like, what led you to today? What brought you here? So starting from the very beginning of just like high level, you were involved with companies before you got into, you can tell that arc of story that leads to what you're doing today with AI.
Yeah, so had a few service businesses way back in the day, got out of those. That led me to SaaS. And so my first foray into SaaS was actually through AI. So back in 2022, realized there was a gap, built an AI grant writing business that used AI to write government grant applications. Great business, scaled it to good revenue. But when the government's your product, bad business to be in. So ended up having to wind that down. One of our advisors at the time was looking to start a venture studio. It was right place, right time, everything. So it was AI first. Spent the better part of the last 2 years building and scaling that. We went from 0 to about 14 companies and 9 million in revenue by the time that I had left. Since then, I think they've gone on to do even more. But yeah, I've been in AI for the past 4 years now, and really everything that everyone's talking about, all the cool stuff, has been really possible since February. So yeah, the whole world has opened up, and stuff that everyone in the space didn't think was doable until 2028 became available now. So it's just been this super unique time where everyone has all this access to the same information. We're playing off the same new playbook. Is getting rewritten every single 2 weeks, it feels like. But it's a fun, fascinating time to be alive.
Yeah, it's like that opus moment, but also just like every single like projection of like what technology is going to become available and what that's going to let like builders and companies use. It's like that whole timeline was collapsed. And we've talked a lot about like just the utter disruption. But to close the loop on like the venture studio thing, just for like the average person, when you explain it, like how would you describe like a venture studio as it compares to like a VC, like what it does and how it's different, like how it kind of serves the market from your lens?
Venture studio, the way at least we find it at the studio I was at, is we were going to either incubate and build our own products or partner and bring founders into the equation, and then they would run companies for us. So everything was internal in our scenario. Whereas with venture capital, you're deploying capital into companies, and then it's almost like a hub and spoke. Whereas in venture studio, you're the hub and the spoke. So we would come up with ideas. We had a massive distribution arm, so we were able to just plug all the companies there. Once an idea got enough legs, find a founder or a CEO, put them in that seat, and then rinse and repeat that whole model.
And when the interesting lens that you have is when you're managing and like overlooking a portfolio, not one individual company, you start to see trends, things that repeat themselves from like a founder and like just, companies in the industry operating. You're like, okay, we're starting to see a pattern or a trend. Or when you're looking at 5, 10, 15 companies, you start to see things that an individual company would miss. So what were those like trends that you would see that, you could point to and say, okay, we're seeing a enormous shift because we have a portfolio and here's where we want to focus based on seeing more than just one at bat?
There was a bunch. A lot of them were very AI tailored because obviously that's the lens we were playing in. But big ones were that user experiences or user interfaces were just going away. Like full stop. People are just getting more and more and more comfortable either having agents use tools or using voice as the interface and then chat only. So this whole experience of just, I want to tell something to do something and get the output at the end. And then the UI wasn't as important. That was a big one. Then just some typical founder things that you notice across a portfolio, like sales bottlenecks was a huge one. I mean, one of the hacks that I always try to get all of our founders to deploy was double book your calendar every single day, because a fascinating thing with AI especially is really easy to get people interested to try something, really hard to get people to stick to something. And that showed up even in sales bookings. So you would see in a calendar, however acquisition would happen, you got 100 calls, you'd expect 50 of those would actually maybe show up. And then of those 50, everybody was willing to give it a try, but retention was really low. So what you had to do to really like hedge your bets is if you knew 50% of the people were just going to not show up to the call anyways, you had to double book every calendar slot and then use AI to pre-qualify every single lead that was in there to find the best ones that had the highest intent. So it was just you needed to like laser focus to really find the cream at the top in a sales process because right now, and this is a trend I'm even noticing with a lot of the companies I'm even spotting now, more from a content side, which we'll sure, but is you really, really need to fight people's own curiosity to try and build their own solutions right now. So, like, I notice this even with products as you get on sales calls and people be like, well, why should I go with you versus building the solution myself? And so, what you had to do is make it super easy for companies or make it super easy for users to just plug you into whatever they're already operating. So, that gets a little bit more technical, but there's like a lot of these trends that we're all pointing in the same direction, which is very quickly, people won't be using software. Agents are using software. And if you're building a tool for a person to use, it's the wrong way of thinking about it. You have to build products that agents are going to use. And it's this like big mind shift. Yeah. But it's even hard, I think, now for people to really grasp because we still view ourselves building and using stuff when in reality, it has to be built for it.
I think that's the interesting part today. Like we talk about this a lot, but there's the people that are on like the leading edge of it, like you, and then there's the people that are laggards or think they're laggards.
Yeah.
So you have people that are still, at least to me, they're pitching opportunities or companies or products or ideas. That's the worst scenario.
Yeah.
They're going to be pitching things based on how startups were kind of presenting or pitching a vision 3 years ago. And I think the nuanced part of how the world has shifted is that people, correctly or not, they'll view something. If you're a business, so they're trying to sell a product to a business, that business is going to just very quickly weigh the pros and cons of like, okay, well, technology is democratized. You know, there's no more moat in technology. So why don't we just go and build this ourselves? So it completely diminishes a brand new company with no distribution, customers, proprietary data, or anything. And it leaves that company to say, okay, we can build it. We have all the secret sauce, but then we have to know how to build it, what to build, who to build, how to integrate. And it's like the scaffolding is almost being rebuilt for companies. So what would you say? The one thing I think about a lot is people are presenting and pitching. I would say like the laggards. They're still coming and they're pitching a company today, and they're saying like we have this idea, this concept, and they're brand new, net new, some new advantage of like how they're using a wrapper on an AI model as an example. How do you generally approach that with like a kind response of basically saying, hey, game has kind of changed a little bit, and like you gotta almost like give advice while you're also saying no to the ones that just have no staying power whatsoever. And there's almost like this new paradigm shift that both startups and individuals need to kind of be aware of when they're evaluating opportunities. It's super hard because the fatigue of feature creep and new functions with new models mean like you have to look at other areas. Those other areas being how do you create moats and differentiation that is extracted and separate from the technology, and that's a different way of thinking.
It is. I mean, there's two things you have to fight. I mean, I learned this lesson kind of the hard way because with my original startup, the AI grant, the reason why we shut the business down was because overnight Trump comes into office, Trudeau gets voted out. That all happens in 2 months. Every grant program we had on our platform no longer exists. So that was the main reason why. But I remember having these like intense conversations with my other co-founders where our biggest bottleneck at the time was context, which is laughable now because Fable 5 comes out 2 days ago whenever people are listening to this. And it has a 1 million token context in window, but then sub agents take that even further. Not to get too technical, but context is not a problem anymore. We were having this discussion of how can we build more context into our product, because when you're writing an 80-page grant document, you need a lot of memory and context to keep the story straight the whole way through. And the whole thing that like myself and one of the other guys was saying is we shouldn't build anything related to context because that's what the models are going to come out with. So like the lesson there is you never want to build something that Anthropic, OpenAI, Gemini, whoever is going to go build because they have literally infinite and resources. So they're going to build the feature. So you can't build something that these labs are already going to go build anyways. But the other thing that you're fighting against is, yeah, this ability where the moat is no longer in the code. The moat is in the process, because when a model can do anything and everything, eventually we'll get there where this model is going to be able to do everything. Prioritization is what becomes the key factor. And so the example I give is, say, for your product to be useful, you have to connect a bank account, you have to connect your payment processor, you have to connect your CRM. Okay, that's cool. But if you're just using Anthropic or if you're using OpenAI to do all your backend processing and you have some like secret processes that you do, that's defensible for a period until these models and these tools just get better documentation and talk to each other. They can do the process. No real advantage. So what you need to start thinking of is, okay, how can I actually, instead of just take data, transform it into a different form factor, you have to think of like, what is the process I'm helping to alleviate? So how can I take data in from multiple tools, transform it, but then take one more step? And what's the next action? So it's almost inputs in, outputs out, but the outputs out actually have to do something. So a really good example of this would be, well, we'll use a fictional example, but let's just say there's a company that takes my transcript data. So like, let's imagine, I have to believe Otter has this on their roadmap. If I've got a call transcription that comes in, I want to be able to take my call transcription. They can already take that, analyze, pull out activities, pull out tasks, pull out stuff that people need to do. The next layer beyond that, which keeps them as a valuable company, is, okay, we can also integrate into your Google, your calendar, everything else. And we can just automatically have all your emails drafted, your calendar events pinged up, and your CRM updated without you having to touch a thing. Okay, now I've got some form of defensibility because I'm removing friction at multiple steps just by playing nice with other tools. So the really big frame that people have to have is you have to think in orders of like improvement, I guess. And again, there's not really any good framing for this because like it's all so new, but you have to take more than one single action. And I think that's the frame people need to
It's
look
thinking
at.
about it in like a frame of actions, and
Yeah.
also keeping in mind, never losing that perspective of what's the output.
Yeah.
And then what are like the human administrative hours that happen between A, B, and C, and
Yeah.
how do they create very defensible, like seamless process where you can actually look at this very easily and say, it helps us do X and Y and saves this amount of time. And it makes it feel like magic, but it's that single step that I think it was like yesterday, but startups of 12 months ago were saying we have this thing and this product, and it was very much that one dimensional piece you're talking about. And I think the interesting part is going to that second dimensional piece, which is you need to then integrate to something else that does another function, almost like seeing around a corner. And I think like we do a lot with like M&A stuff and helping companies position to like exit their companies. And this has now made it all the way downstream to people that are they see the writing on the wall, but companies looking to acquire, they now look at this very, very simply. And they're like, well, in a world where anyone can build anything for next to nothing, the technology argument is very hard to defend, especially from like a valuation perspective.
Yeah.
So these newer companies come in with what looks like a great product and it's functional, but the potential acquirers, the guys that are doing a roll up, they're going to look at these companies and say, well, we have 10,000 customers. We've been in business for 15 years. We have points of presence in these different countries. We have these partnerships, relationships. And oh, by the way, we have this much data. So the technology argument is so weak, they can just knock it down and say, well, in 2 weeks, our guys are just going to build this product, giving us what you have, but then we have what you don't. So that argument doesn't stand up. And so the M&A conversation is very, very weak, especially for these newer companies, because again, anyone can build anything. And so it leads to the next thing, which is if you're an ambitious person today and you're learning these tools and you're seeing the very best of what's out there, what are the best like frameworks to think about in terms of what areas should I look at so that I'm not, and I've say this from firsthand experience, I'm not disrupted every single quarter or every month with a new like feature update and makes a whole cohort of like venture funded startups irrelevant. What are frameworks to think about that people can just adopt and say, okay, I'm going to build something this year. Here's the framework that I need to start looking at opportunities, because technology is, let's just say it's like flatlined in terms of like its competitive advantage. Anyone can build and it's very cheap and fast. So what frameworks to think about, what areas to pursue that can maintain and build value versus just be disrupted over and over and over again?
I'll start at like the very top and then I'll niche it down. But the framework you have to adopt is, let's use your example where the AI can just do everything. So imagine you and I are both realtors and we have access to an AI that knows everything about real. You and I are effectively on even playing field because I can just get my agent to respond to offers faster than your agent, whatever, right? In that world, now it just becomes who knows the game better at the end of the day. Like if you've been in real estate for 25 years and you know just the buyer psychology or the seller psychology better than I do, you can look at a bunch of processes or a bunch of tasks and you can just know which button to press to get the most value out of it. So like I might press one button, but you're pressing the other one that's actually a higher priority, higher leverage opportunity. So to say all this is you have to be able to look at an organization. I actually got off the phone with a company today where every company, if you talk to any business, they know where their pain points land. If you want to build the proper skill set, you have to be able to go into an organization, spot where are those pain points, analyze what are actually the biggest, highest leverage pain points that are going to buy back the most amount of time, money, resources for that organization, and then figure out how to just automate that. So, like a perfect example of this is I have one company that I've been talking to as a client. They're an agency. Their biggest bottleneck at the moment is client communication. So every month, they're doing one monthly report on all of the like ad performance on the account for that company. They have one dude whose sole job it is to look at every one of the 50 clients they have, pull all the data every single week, organize it, keep the spreadsheets tabulated, and generate one report for each company each month. Somebody's getting paid whatever, 90 grand a year to basically generate 50 reports. And the biggest bottleneck is they can't hire somebody else to do it because they need that person to be able to analyze all the information and put these documents together in a way that looks nice for the clients. So what you need to be able to do is if you're somebody who wants to be valuable in this world is learn how to build the tool that just solves that process. Okay, so can I go build a skill within Claude that can take data from Meta, Google, and wherever else, analyze it, give me the metrics that I want to look for? Then can I build another skill that I can give to another agent that can then take that data, format it properly, build a report, and then can I build a loop or a schedule that now instead of sending it out once a month, I'm sending it out once a week and I'm getting way better client communication. And now this person who is spending 40 hours a week on this one task, now their job becomes revisionary. Where it's like, okay, now I'm looking at each one of the outputs each week and just saying yes, and I can go off and do something more valuable with my time. Or the organization can just cut cost. I don't think I think there's a lot of overhype where companies are going to be just like cutting headcount. I think what it is you're just going to allocate really dumb, meaningless, repetitive tasks onto more high value ones. And so the real opportunity to spot is not thinking about technology as a product, but thinking of it as a process. And if you can just spot the high leverage processes, automate those so that way you're buying back the most real world time leverage for people, that's where the money's made because then you can productize that process and resell that process to multiple people. And then there's ways where you can make it so you still own all the access to everything, cut it off for people, but you're essentially selling workflows now at the end of the day. Like chained together multi-step processes is not good enough anymore just to be able to take a document and convert it to something else. You need to be able to take a document, convert it to something else, and send it off to the person who needs to see it and check back in with them to make sure that they actually got it and the next step in the process is fired up.
Yeah. It's almost like hyper focused
Yeah.
niche output based workflows that like make sense.
Yeah.
But and that's not far from the other concept of like business is nothing more than like solving problems for people at scale for profit, hopefully. And so when you look at that now, and what these workflows and these processes, like they solve problem, they create opportunities, time, they increase net margin.
Yeah.
So there's that's why every single company in the world is looking at it. But if you're looking at it from purely a solving problem perspective today, and again, you're one of those like ambitious founders, what would you say? I guess if you looked at like moats, like what are the moats, and then how would you rank them in terms of priority? Like I think looking at like the vertical, the expertise, the specific industry you're in from like a very, very focused lens. That's why usually people that leave a company, they leave a company with such in-depth knowledge. They're like a weapon to go back into that industry, wrapping it with their entire job plus some. They'll create a very powerful tool, then go to everyone that they know how to reach out to, and then bada bing. And that could work. The longevity of that maybe is in question, but that's how you can solve a near-term problem. But if you looking at opportunities today, so you go industry by industry, vertical by vertical, how would you rank moats? Like there's data, there's distribution, there's certain things that are like king, but how would you how would you rank the most important moats to make sure that if you're going to pursue something that's like top tier in your whole kind of priority sequence?
Yeah, I mean, distribution probably 1, data is 2. Already covered that. The next one I would say is domain expertise
Mhm.
is probably the second moat, the third moat rather, because no model, no matter how good it is, no AI system, LLM has the information that someone with deep domain expertise has. Like, there's I think it's that one Robert De Niro movie or whatever it is where he's like the old dude that gets hired on a tech startup. Like, that is literally the perfect example of what the domain expertise mode is because for anyone who hasn't seen it, basically De Niro gets hired in, I think, as this like DEI hire, as like the old guy at this organization. And then he's the only guy that knew how to do proper bookkeeping, accounting, and like organizational process. So
Yeah,
he
like
just like,
40 years of context.
yeah, so he just whipped this company into like a lean, mean machine real fast. That is the kind of moat that you can't like no model is going to have the nuance of how a certain organization in a niche functions. And if you have that expertise, you can codify that now. Like you can take your expertise, put that into a repeatable system and process, and then go. And as long as you button that up neat and tidy in a proper process package, nobody can really steal that. And then that only improves as these models get better. So does your process. It just gets better, faster, stronger, more context, whatever it is. So I'd say honestly, right now, it's about the only thing you can really bet on because the tool stack, I mean, new model comes out, I don't know, maybe Grok gets good, who knows?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then and then it's the good one.
yeah.
Probably not, but you never know. So you don't wanna be like the technology you never wanna get too attached to, that can just change on a the people as well is I wouldn't really even say is a mode there, but if you have great people, that's always gonna be an advantage over somebody else, but if you're somebody who's looking to find opportunity, you either need to have that deep domain expertise or find somebody or a company that has that deep domain expertise, codify it, systemize it, productize it, apply it other places. So we're almost seeing this new evolution of service businesses where you can productize a service real fast now at and scale it. So that's really, I guess, where the mo blends down from is just productize a service, domain expertise, and
That's one of the things that, like a macro shift, has been the most exciting thing over the
yeah,
past, I would say, 3 years. It is for, I always go back to like ambition, but like the talented subject matter experts, even if they were working in a job or an industry for like many years, but they have a really good quality amount of, like, they have a lot of subject matter expertise. They know their business, they know their industry. And the thing that I like the most, the thing that shifted the most is not that long ago, in the not too distant future, if you were one of those people and you said, okay, you know what, I'm going to strike it off on my own, I'm going to build a product, or I'm going to build a solution for this problem that I've identified, there's an immediate kind of wall you're up against where I need to create a big enough vision. Then I got to find an engineer, I got to find a full stack guy, and I got to find like an iOS developer. I got to find someone that can get the UI and map it out. And I got to basically, got to find these engineers and developers. And a very near term issue for that is these people often don't know of many of those, or they go to one of the sourcing websites and it's like, it's a vetting of quality, then it's a cost thing. So there's a number of hurdles in between the person of talent inside of an industry and then the ability to find those engineers and developers to build that thing, to then build it up to a certain scale where you can then bring it in and show it to people, pitch it, present it, sell it,
yeah,
and then make your shot at things. The thing that I'm excited about now is that someone that is a subject matter expert doesn't have those immediate barriers in front of them. It's going to lower the threshold. They can, if they learn the tools. So a lot of
yeah,
people feel like they're very much behind. And I think that's a normal thing to feel, especially right now when it moves so quickly.
yeah,
But I think the coolest thing in the world is right now, someone that really knows their business and their industry very well, they are the moat. They've got the ambition and the expertise. Now that tech is leveled, as long as you learn the very best tools and skills, you can whip up something that before, and speaking from experience, you'd probably need one, maybe two or three engineers, developers, designers, probably 30, 50 to 60 grand to get something even stood up. To be able to, with credibility, walk into a business and say, I have this solution. I've learned over this many years. I built a product to solve this problem, and here it is. The subject matter expert is not burdened by having to find the right engineer with the right cost. They can build things right away if they learn those tools. What do you think is going to be the impact of that? Where all of a sudden people that know so much about their industry are now equipped with this like democratized access to technology,
yeah.
What do you think that's going to do in the next like 3 years?
I think what it's going to do is it's going to empower a lot of like companies are going to have to start getting a bit better at how they manage their talent because the people who know what they're doing, who are ambitious,
Mhm.
to your point, it's going to be a lot. It's going to become a lot more juicy for them to say, "Oh, you know what? I have been in manufacturing for 10 years now. I'm youngish, maybe. I
I
know
see
how
around
to."
a corner that they aren't
I
seeing or
see
they're too slow.
exactly, and like I also deeply understand this problem. Like when we get, for instance, I met this one guy who had been. The reason I say manufacturing is he'd been in it for 6 years. Young guy, I think he's only like 32, but saw the problem where every single time they got a new shipment in the door in their loading bay, it was this massive laundry list of like every item inside the pallet that somebody was manually going to, checking every single piece, doing the count, then manually inputting in the thing. It was like every time we got something new in our door, it was 7 hours before we had it processed, if we're lucky. And then we can start moving on with the thing. Whereas it's like, no, how about we just build a tool that I can take my phone, scan the package, it pulls everything in, connects it to the ERP, sets it in the system, and then I just had literally have to take a scan now of the inventory sheet and it's in the system. Cool. 7 hours bought back. You know what? Maybe that's a process that is it a product that you're going to take to scale? No, but can I go to 15 other manufacturing companies and say, hey, this is a 7 hour a day problem for you minimum. How would I take that off your plate? 2 grand a month, whatever it is. Here's this system. Bang, there you go. Yeah, that guy's going to be very incentivized very quickly to go start reselling this process or this system over and over and over and over and over again to other people. So I think you're going to start to see a lot of people get inspired that way where they can spot the problems they've seen for a really long time, build a solution for it, and then replicate it across lots of organizations. And if you are a company, you should really start to incentivize people and work your comp structures around, okay, can you build these internal tools for us? We'll handsomely pay you for it. And then off to the races you go. Like there's
Yeah.
going to be this for people that are creative enough, can think in a systems approach, spot those problems, build the solutions. It's pretty
Yeah.
exciting time.
And that timeline collapsing between like
Yeah.
the subject matter expert being able to rapidly build, and if they're on point with their solution, they're ambitious enough to get into these doors very quickly and quickly land 3, 4, 5 companies with a really good solution very quickly. I see the timelines have collapsed because I've even seen cases where a true subject matter expert will very quickly build a product, but also very quickly get meaningful clients in the door that show, okay, I'm like 90 days in and here's my hockey stick with revenue and
Yeah.
customers. And then at that moment, an entrenched player from that space says, "Oh, that's definitely an area of technology that we don't have. We can see why that not only solves our own problem, but we can sell it into our industry, one of the consolidators or whatever." And then they'll very quickly pick that up. Might not be a massive 8-figure deal, but if someone's doing this stuff, I mean, founders like these 7-figure base hits all day long. And I'm seeing that increase. And I think that's a super interesting area where there's people that I'm talking to that are their plan is to build 3, 4, 5 of these per year.
Yeah.
And like what their plan is that's that process I just mentioned. They find the expert, they partner up, very quickly build the scaffolding, the tools, the brand, very quickly sell it, make something very materially good. And then the thing that they do is they get it into the right doors of the people that would be incentivized to own that. And then they package it up for a very easy, low 7-figure transaction. And they do that a couple times a year. And they're just laughing. They love it because they know that in this world of disruptive technology, at some point, all of these organizations are going to have this product, but the almost like the arbitrage is like that might be 24 or 36 months out. So they could sell 6 companies in the next like 24 months and solve problems for people, and the companies that buy it could still scale that up. But that's where the playing field has changed, and like it's just collapsed time.
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch.
And it's so fun because like, yeah, you don't need to go hire a ton of people to do it anymore.
Yeah,
It's literally just
2, 3
can
people teams.
yeah, can you sit down with Claude? Can you properly ask for what you want? Can you take the expertise in your brain, give it to AI or get AI to extract it out of you, which is the better way to do it,
Yeah,
and then build the system, make it test it to make sure it works, and then just rinse and repeat it. That's all it is.
yeah, I love it. Okay, let's switch gears for a second. One of the most interesting things I've watched you do in the last little while is I forget the name that you called it, but it was like 100 days of AI content, and you committed and dedicated yourself in that transition period to saying, I'm an expert, I'm learning every single day. And you took the leap to say, I'm going to create content every single day for the next 100 days on AI, and I think you went from, I don't know what you had before, a few thousand or whatever, but I think today you're at 92,000.
Yeah.
You have so many people I see in your comments that are like taking all your resources. You're showing them in like 60 seconds something that blows their mind.
Yeah.
And you said the most important thing I think you said is like it changed your life.
Yeah.
So tell me the story. Like, what inspired that 100-day AI challenge, and talk about like what became out of that whole 100 days, because that's just
Yeah.
it's been incredible to watch.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, it was partially a kick in the ass for my fiance. She'd been telling me for a long time, like, I can yap. So she was like, you better just like start making content. And then I had another friend who at the same time was also saying, hey, you should just start making a bunch of content. And then it was also out of necessity because after I left my position at the venture studio, which was for that Opus 4.5 moment where the whole universe opened up in terms of AI talk. And actually, like, a fun thing just before is, people think they're behind right now. They're not, because all the cool stuff you're seeing people be able to do has really only been doable since February. So we're in June now. So we're talking 4 months. Like, all the craziness has happened in 4 months. Like, we're early.
So on that note,
Yeah.
if you feel like you're behind, me too. You're not. We're talking months, not
Yeah.
years. Today is an incredible moment to say you're not behind, but just get into it. Because
Yeah,
like
100%.
right now is more interesting than ever before.
Exactly. And one of the things I really took away at the venture studio is there were so many customers, there were so many people that I had exposure to, and they all had the same and every single time. You ask them, like, what do you need help with? And they're like, cool, we know we should be using AI, but we don't know how to apply it. And I was like, okay, enough. Like, after I think I had 15 people say that, I was just sitting with one of my friends talking about it, and he was even asking me, like, oh, well, what should I do with AI? And I was like, you know what, screw this. I'm just gonna start giving people examples of things they can use AI for.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
because I was like, I was looking for something. What do I want to share? It was like just sharing advice hard, sharing something that's way too technical hard. I was like, let me just show cool use cases. So it was 100 days of 100 cool use cases. Some days were cooler use cases than others, but that was the whole point. Like, the goal that I have is, I think, like, AI is a little bit like the universe right now. So, like, if I can just get people to jump on the train at any point, I think it's going to help. Like, I know it's just going to help them, because it's not like learning Excel, where, like, if you want to go learn Excel, there's a defined start point and there's a few defined endpoints. Like, what use case of Excel do you want to go down? Go down financial analysis CFA route. Okay. Do you want to go use it like an accountant? Okay. Do you want to go use it for a bunch of different ways? AI is, the start point keeps moving every single week. So, like, the place where you started literally 2 weeks ago is now different from the place I would tell people to start today. But then the scope of what's possible is also going. So it's like the universe in that sense, where it's expanding and accelerating at the same time. So you just need to jump in. So the whole, like, goal behind my content was, at least can I just get someone to jump in, even if it's something stupid like taking a picture of your face and seeing my haircuts look good. Like,
Yeah.
I don't really.
I saw that one. I thought that was
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. But it's just, that was the whole thing. And yeah, what happened for me was, started posting. I went into it as well, fully expecting. I even told my fiance, I'm like, I'm gonna do this. Uh, might be rough for the next month and a half, but I was fully expecting to just have 0 views in the first 30 videos. And I went in with that mindset of, I'm just gonna try it and we'll see what it does. But after 30 days, competent, I should be able to figure it out. And then, yeah, lucky for me, I guess my thesis was right. And day 3, I think I hit a 400,000 view video, and it just took off from there. But yeah, I started with 1,400.
Day 3.
Yeah, day
See,
3.
that was one thing I wanted to ask you about is, so you committed to the whole 100 days like
Yeah.
before you started. Okay, so that right there is cool. You didn't like give yourself an inch and say I'm going to start this week, or I'm going to do a series of 10 videos. Like you
No.
said 100.
Yeah.
And then in a very, very, very micro scale, I know how challenging and cringy it can be at times to create content. I know that. But I think also anyone else that's like striking out to create content is going to bump into these inevitable things where I think because it's AI, it's also very, very, very topical, and a lot of people wanted to consume it. So you caught fire in the right category, being AI. You delivered it the right way, and you create a lot of value in terms of being able to show quick, fast, and better than the next guy. But knowing that you're going to do 100, you already kind of answered it with like the third day, or the
Yeah.
third day you had like a video that did 400. But was there a moment where you wanted to quit because that's the real juice? And
Yeah.
then the second one is, where did it catch fire where you're just like, holy shit, like
Yeah, yeah,
beyond
yeah.
what I thought, and you're like just fired up to continue and just like never stop.
Yeah, so funny enough for me, it was day 2.
Day
So,
2. Okay.
well, I'm a really extroverted person. Like, I have no issue making a fool of myself, but for whatever reason, I could not stand like, I had to tell my fiance to go sit in the car when I was when I was recording my first few videos because I was like, "I sound so stupid. This is so dumb. I don't wanna do this."
This
So,
right here is an example though, because
yeah.
like I've had the exact same thing where I'm
Yeah.
shooting a interview or a pod or something. I'm like, hey, make plans, like
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go
yeah.
do something. Cause like it's almost like you hear yourself talk and it's like everything's really quiet and it's really challenging. So
Yeah.
that little example is awesome. But yeah.
Yeah. But then, like, the other thing for me is I actually filmed, recorded, and edited the first 5 videos before I even posted them
Okay.
because I thought they were all so dumb. Like, at the same I'm not a perfectionist, but there are things that I am a little perfectionist-y on. So, I mean, I also the thing for me is I also had a bit of an advantage because I got to see how, like, a really good media company was run in the past. So I took my learnings from there, applied them to myself. I also set my environment up really well. So I built an entire content system with Claude that helped me with topic generation to even down to, like, how I should position myself, and, like, a few like, one of my quirks is I just hold dumb stuff when I do my videos,
Which
and
is awesome. The
and
the
Cla
blender, the
yeah, yeah,
spatula,
yeah.
the knife.
Yeah, and Claude figured that out for me. So I used AI to what I did is I really used AI to try and engineer success as much as possible. Because for me, I subscribed to 100 days and I said, I'm gonna do this. I mentally prepared for 30 days to completely fail, but I wanted to give myself the best shot possible. So I used as much support with AI as I could to figure out, okay, well, what are the best creators doing? Let's map that and see like what hooks are they using, what formats, what structures, what's working.
I'm gonna butcher this and dumb it down,
Yeah.
but like I think the cool thing, you jumped in and said, I'm gonna take a leap
Yeah.
and I'm gonna commit to this time frame. But I think the cool thing you did was you were like completely data driven from like what you showed me.
Yeah.
The way that you not only created like the precursor context to come up with things like the visual hooks with like
Yeah.
what you're holding, but you also analyze like the entire space from like hooks and formats and frameworks and like
Yeah.
the way that it would generate copy and the way you would like enter in the videos. Like you were the most data driven at that moment that I had seen, where it's almost like it was like inevitable that it was going to catch fire. The way that I saw you do it, I'm like, you were the first time that someone showed me that. And I was like, this is just a mathematical guaranteed certainty, but it's a moment of time it will catch fire because of how you were so analytical of how it was proving. And if something was not going to perform, that same process would make you iterate and you're going to find success regardless, which is interesting. You're the most data driven. So if you're going to pair up the very significant challenge of creating content, which I think is like for most people, it's like speaking in public. It's very, very hard. So if you're going to commit to that path, which is challenging, you're best served to come up with these frameworks and use these tools that give you that advantage to take what's proven to work and help you synthesize that into, okay, if you're going to do it anyway, I'm going to increase your chances of success. Like that to me is rocket fuel.
My whole thing was like, just do it, but at the same time, do it so we get
Do
better.
it smart.
Do it and do it smart.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I didn't want to just do 100 videos and have it fall flat. So yeah, I was pulling in all the data from all the other creators in the space at the time, what was working, applied that to myself, built a voice guide for myself, had AI analyze all the metrics from every video I did, used the Mr. Beast approach, which is make each video 1% better. So I built a system that would help me analyze, okay, what worked, what didn't work, based on the metrics and based on other people's metrics for videos that was working. Like, how can we try and find the connections here? And I guess I built a pretty good system because it worked after three because
Yeah.
it worked after 3
Oh,
videos.
it's huge. So that like a question on that system, like
Yeah.
I talked to you about it, but like that system that you built as an example, if you isolated that and looked at that as a product, do you feel like that system is unique to you, or is that system itself being commoditized in the world where everyone now has a content system to varying degrees? Because the workflow of pulling information, synthesizing it, and iterating towards like your brand message. But how do you view that system yourself? Is that something that's just table stakes commodity where everyone's going to have access to that? Or do you feel like if that was a product for you, that would still be a competitive advantage today where it could stand on its own?
I think it's a product that can stand on its own and still have a competitive advantage. Because it's back to the same thing again. Like, if we're both trying to create content, we both have the exact same content system that's telling us what to say, how to do it. There's things that don't factor into it. Like, there's things along the lines of delivery. Do I deliver it better with more energy or with a different way than you do? I mean, it can even come down to people like my face more than do they like your face. Or do they hate my face more and they watch it more because they hate my face more than they hate your face?
It's the green fruit chop.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's a bunch of different variables in there. But at the same time, I know it can work for other people because I've seen a few other people take the system I've built and apply it, and they've seen success with it as well. Because there's also nuance. Like it comes down to there's a taste element. Like AI can write me an entire script. And like a perfect example is I did a video about a week and a half ago that's been just outperforming. But I knew that video was going to outperform. And the reason why I knew it was going to outperform is because I sat down with it and I really just sparred back and forth with Claude to get the hook a little bit better because now I know somebody who's done whatever 115 of these videos now that that hook was going to perform better than a different hook. And so even if you and I have the same system, if I have that last 10% advantage to just say, I think we should do this versus this, it'll still be an advantage to me. Like the advantage of the system isn't like a button go viral, happy days. The advantage of the system is the entire process of content creation for myself just gets compressed down to an hour and a half a day as opposed to 3, 4 hours a day, which some people. And so like that's the main difference is it makes the act of doing content easier. It doesn't necessarily make it inherently better. Now it does help.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure it helps. But there's still that last little bit where like even if you give two people the exact same thing is
That common thread that we talk about a lot is I think the dangerous combo is deep expertise in AI, but also understanding that media is leverage. So one other question for you is someone that understands both media being leverage and AI in very significant detail. What's the one thing you learned in that 100 days of creating content that ended up building a brand, an audience that AI couldn't teach you? Like, how do you look at this now as a human saying, wow, I mastered the tool, the technology, the medium, which is media. You now sit on what I would refer to, like you have a significant asset now.
Yeah.
That you can point that towards a number of things yourself to serve at greater scale, build a product, build a business. So
Yeah.
what was the biggest kind of takeaway impact for you that you're now sitting on this thing where you got, you're like a snowball of like
Yeah.
100,000 followers and that's not slowing down. So what do you do with that now?
I mean, I think the biggest takeaway for me is I always in the back of my mind knew that even though it's so dumb, but bigger number on social media make more people talk to you. Like I always knew that those two things had a happy marriage somewhere. I actually underestimated how big of a difference it makes. I still think it's dumb because like I haven't really changed at all other than like a number on social media. But for whatever reason, that number gives you access to things and people that just wouldn't be there before. And
Yeah.
so it's like that to me has been the biggest learning is it's just like, oh, okay. I think it's just more, it's less of a learning, it's more of just a deeper appreciation of what that leverage actually entails. So like my main goal now is just get that number as big as possible. And I think another big one that I have learned that I've learned this from other creators is to really protect that to protect the trust is a big one. So
Yeah.
I think I've done maybe 1 or 2 brand partnerships, like way less than I could have, or I have had the ability to do. But it's because like brand trust is such a big thing as well. So like you can have a massive audience, but if you have horrible brand trust, it doesn't matter.
And if you deviate
Yeah.
from your core message too with a product that you don't believe in or is questionable, you're going to completely
Yeah, you're just gonna
just
throttle
pilfer.
yourself.
You're gonna just ruin that trust.
Yeah.
From the beginning.
So it's like for me, that was a really big learning is like, okay, shiny object over here, maybe say no to because you have to really think of delayed gratification. Like, yeah, you could do a lot more monetarily short term, but you can do a lot more long term if you just keep going at the way. And so those have been the two biggest unlocks for me because yeah, some of the people I've been able to meet, some people that I actually looked up to in the past where I was like, oh yeah, it would be great to meet that person. Now it's like they DM you first because they saw a video and you're just like,
That's rad.
this is sick. Like
That's super cool.
it's pretty cool.
See,
So yeah.
and I look at that like from other creators as well as yourself.
Yeah.
Is like that is the juice that's worth the squeeze of getting over yourself. And the hard part of creating content is that there's almost like there's serendipity and opportunities on the other end that I hear from you and other people that it's just like without you having done it, like those unique opportunities that you could never have even spotted, they come to you, which is kind of cool. So it's another like significant incentive for people to get out there and do this like challenging thing. One other thing I wanted to ask you is there's certain things that like in this near term, last like 12, 24 months, we've learned like basic stuff of like very early on with ChatGPT, it was like all about the quality of your prompt and prompt engineering. And then we moved to other things where you always remind like your neighbor or your friend or your parents is like speak to it on an output based kind of format or make it interview you to pull it out. Don't try to have all the answers. Like ask it the outcome based objective and get it to interview. Little things like that. So what things would you say that people are still doing wrong? And like the highest level things that you'd encourage people to say, you're doing AI wrong, enter this.
Biggest thing people are still doing wrong is they are giving too much information to AI and they're trying to wrestle their prompts together. So they're just doing too much with their prompts. Prompt engineering is still very much a thing, but it's slowly dying. The real thing you need to be doing is just goal-based prompting. So just tell the AI what you want, get it to ask you to pull out your preferences, let it figure out how to connect all the dots, and then go. Period, full stop. Like there's this huge thing, there's this huge trend right now going on about something called loops. Anybody who's been like in AI for a while has been using loops, either whether they knew it or they didn't know it. Essentially, all it is you tell the system, here's the goal, here's the checklist of what good looks like. Don't give me an output until this checklist is met. And so, funny, if I do this with all my carousels, I say, hey, here's what each carousel needs to look like. Don't show me the freaking carousel until you know that each one of these points for each slide has been met. And then, oh, poop's a really good carousel for social media. So, biggest mistake people make is they try and overcomplicate their prompts. Keep them simple. Start with the goal in mind, and then get the AI to just tell you or to ask you what you want, as opposed to you tell it what you want.
And there's a lot of like AI doom and gloom right now. Whereas like depending on what podcast you go on, there's like someone that says, "Oh, jobs are over," and like very doom oriented. And there's other people that are like, "We're in a massive bubble. Jobs are still being created. Jobs are net increasing versus like decreasing." Because there was a moment in time there, I think you'd remember too, where like there's all these like X articles and everything came out, and everyone's like, "Oh man, like in 36 months, like the clock stops. Like there's no more jobs." And I think like in any new technology, like there's that initial like burst, and we have these innovation curves for a reason. But AI is just quicker and faster, and it does have more implications for every single business and industry. But what would you like? Are you more on the not even like it's not that black and white of like doom and gloom, but if you could look as far as you can possibly see, let's just say it's like 36 months out, specifically looking at traditional jobs behind a screen in a business and industry in a city in the middle of the United States, what do you think some of the biggest like shifts are going to be in like just 3 years from now
Yeah.
as it relates to jobs as we know it? Like, is there significant shifts, or do you think it's going to be quicker or slower than like these naysayers are
Yeah.
talking about?
I think it's going to be relatively quick, but it's going to take a long time to fully integrate. But I mean, like, the hottest take I have is that up until now, we valued execution. So people who can do things, valuable. That's not like execution is useless now. The only thing that's going to be valuable going forward is prioritization. And so what you're going to see is a lot of these roles and a lot of these jobs in which you click a button, you move something from one place to the other, you change information, you shuffle paper around more or less, which a lot of behind the computer jobs are. That paper shuffling is no longer valuable. But what is going to be valuable is, again, where on the spectrum of just because we can automate everything doesn't mean we should automate everything. So where do we point our attention to like the 20% on either end that we need to focus on? And are you the type of person who understands our organization, our objectives, our goals enough to put that super powered intelligence on the right problems? That's what it's going to be. So what people really have to start learning is more executive skills, I guess. Even if you're like an administrative assistant, you need to start learning more. How can I delegate tasks, and how can I just how can I get AI to do the stuff it should be doing, and how can I focus on doing the things that only I can do, which is decision making and prioritization. And I think that is going to be the hardest thing for people to grasp, because college, high school, university, all education is built upon creating really good people who are well skilled at execution. I don't know how we change that. I don't know how we change that. But the problem is that everybody has this frame of execution as value. That's not valuable. So that's the hardest thing. Now, I'm more on the the gloom side of everything, where I just think you're going to see this massive reorg of what people spend their time doing in an organization. I don't think jobs are really going to get cut all that much, because
Because what they're doing is going to
it's
shift.
just what they're doing. And the thing is, it's scary because we don't know what is right now, because we've never had to experience it before.
Yeah.
But
bit of a consolidation, a shift, and
Yeah.
adapting
I
to.
mean, the other frame to think of is if I'm an organization and I now know that AI can make one person 5 times more effective, let's say, why the hell am I going to cut all my people if I have 3 people right now who are 5 times more effective, so I got 15 people worth of output. Shouldn't I just go hire 5 more people? Now I've got 25 people worth of output. Like that makes a bit more sense to me than
And I
let's just
think
start cutting
that
headcount.
example there is
Yeah.
the right informed humans empowered with AI gives disproportionate output. So you're
Yeah.
seeing net new jobs. They're saying from a business perspective, can I get 50x new output by bringing on 10 new people
Yeah.
that before I was concerned on the budgeting part of doing that. So I think that's where that little discrepancy, that nuance of like new jobs are being created, not just being cut. And then of course, people that are not able to adapt and utilize these tools, and that's a different conversation. That becomes more of a challenge. But one other topic is today there's like a record-breaking IPO with like SpaceX. That's interesting because, Elon's now a trillionaire, which is wild. And then you're seeing like they're being paid like $1 billion a month from these different players. But I was reading something today or the other day. Semi-analysis was basically breaking down the subsidies that happen in like these subscription plans. So one hot take I wanted from you is like OpenAI subsidizes the most by
a metric ton.
large margin. But then Anthropic subsidizes a lot well. So my question is, if you just look at this from like a very simple lens of like that math doesn't math, how long until does this bubble just pop? If you're looking at they charge X amount, they pay billions of dollars, they charge you $200 and it costs them thousands. How long does this continue until this subsidizing part just blows up? Like what happens there? Because this is obviously not going to shake out for long. Like this doesn't make sense.
My hot take on that is people that burn through tokens just are bad at using AI. So if you are sitting there always hitting your token usage limit, you just suck at using AI. I think I checked in the last 6 days. I think I've used something like 30 billion tokens or something. Or no, 30 million tokens, which is like I'm small fish in the grand scheme of things, but I'm using a lot more tokens than a lot of people are using. Full stop. And the thing with me is I think I'm at 20% of my weekly usage right now. So what people need to start doing is learning how to build really good systems with AI. And so like the real thing is, yeah, that time is going to come when the subsidies run out. I would anticipate that's going to happen within 18 to 24 months. Like the getting is going to be done in 18 to 24 months. But the opportunity now is, and why you need to start using this now is if you use the tools we have right now to just build ironclad, efficient systems that have really good instructions, really good documentation. You use AI as an orchestrator. So my Claude, for instance, doesn't really use a lot of its own thinking horsepower because I have all my workflows are so codified with Claude, you do this, you tell it to push this button, you take this information, transform it a little bit, but then it goes down and performs these tasks, these scripts fire, these automations go. Claude's not doing all the work because I've built the system that does all the work. AI is great at building those systems. If you take the next 24 months and you don't build those systems, yeah, you deserve to spend 16 grand a month when that comes in. You deserve to have a poop party.
Yeah.
But
do you think it's a bubble?
Like
from a high level lens, you think this whole thing is a bit of a bubble? There's always value there, but do you think it's a bubble?
I mean, the finance major in me says yes, but the actual use case in me says there's just no way, because when you also look at the TAM for what AI can be, we're still at, I think, less than 2% penetration just at enterprise alone. So we're talking the actual adoption isn't there. Now, sure, maybe the numbers don't scale up potentially. So like this problem just gets exponentially more insane as time goes on. But for the companies that are using these tools and are using them effectively, the gains are so far outweighed and the value is so high that, yeah, is there a little bit of like a dead fiber from the internet side of things where all this fiber optic is laid and then there's not enough capacity for it to run on yet and it took 10 years to catch up? Maybe. And I've heard all the doom cases for it. I look at it though and I go, there's too much value creation for this not to be in it for smartest people in the world to figure out the cost problem to get it to a point where it works. There's also governments have incentives to just hopefully they get their act together and start building more nuclear plants as quickly as possible. There's so many more nuclear startups popping up right now to make more energy cleaner.
And all the guys that are behind the AI companies
are funding those,
quietly funding all the nuclear, the salt reactors, the The
everything.
modular ones,
Yeah.
they're all being funded by those guys.
Yeah. And so it's like, is there a potential financial bubble in terms of financing? Yeah. You can't have $400 billion or whatever it is, like, go worth of IPOs in a 3-month span and expect
There's even a question of like just liquidity in the market.
Yeah.
Like SpaceX opened up to retail and dropped their minimums. Like it's just gonna
Yeah.
take every dollar that exists
So,
out there.
I think, but I would almost argue that's a bigger financial market bubble problem
Yeah,
than
it is.
AI sector specific, even though the AI sector is the largest contributor to
I
said
say the
to said
financial
bubble.
market is AI.
Um,
That's it.
Yeah, but and also there's all these articles online about people saying like, oh, this like McKinsey did a review and said that companies implementing AI aren't seeing returns. Well, guess what? It's in McKinsey's best interest for AI not to deliver value because AI is
Yeah.
coming straight for their job.
McKinsey
Like,
is literally just sitting there. Unless you're an integrator that helps
Yeah.
people integrate it, you're like, it's just the clock's
Yeah.
on your head. Like that's an
Exactly.
obvious one. McKinsey
Yeah.
is now in a box.
Yeah.
That you punch for tokens. Like
Exactly.
It's their days are done.
Yeah.
But unless they figure out their forum, that is what it is. One thing I wanted to ask is like from the simplest lens, if you're just from the kindness of your heart giving advice to people that honestly feel completely overwhelmed and don't know where to start, but they really want to make great use of AI and put their time where it really belongs to get the max output in terms of what it gives them from a skill and opportunity perspective, what advice would you give to people that feel behind, but they really want to get going?
Fastest thing you can do is just go to Claude, ChatGPT, ask it to interview you, figure out where you can use AI in your life in a simple fashion. Start there. Don't do anything else. Just ask AI to get your details and tell you where you can apply it. Don't try and think about it. Don't overcomplicate it. Just start there. And actually, I think I have a resource. Like if anybody just DMs me, I'll set up an automation where if anybody DMs me garage, I'll just fire off like a prompt you can just copy and paste. So then that works. But
Yeah,
that's-
default.
yeah,
Know your outcome, but default to just ask AI. Ask AI to ask you. Don't think you have to know all the answers.
don't even start with an outcome. Literally, I would just go and I would say, hey, Claude, I feel overwhelmed. I don't know where to start with AI. Can you interview me to like understand different aspects of my
Let it
life,
do the work.
like my job, my relationship, my personal life? And can you give me recommendations on how I could be using AI better to make my life easier?
Yeah.
That's it.
Beautiful. All right, man. Well, in the show notes, we're going to link up. So it's at cooper.simpson.
Yep.
This is at Founders Garage. I'm at Dean Sutton. And thank you for taking the time to chat with us. And we'll add some more links and show notes and everything else as well. But thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you.